name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my October TBR. So during the October month, I do like reading kind of creepy, spooky stories. So I'm not going to be choosing prompts out of my TBR jar. I just kind of chose some books off of my shelf that I think fit the creepy atmosphere of the Halloween season. So without further ado, let's get on into the books. But before we do that, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new content. I post new videos every Sunday and every Wednesday, and sometimes I post bonus videos on Friday. The first book I'm going to be reading is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 3 in the Stormlight archives, and I'm reading it in conjunction with Stormalong 2020, and we are reading the first half of Oathbringer in October and the second half in November, all in preparation for book 4, which comes out in November, and which I just pre-ordered. I wasn't sure if I was going to pre-order it, but I did because I'm trash for Brandon Sanderson, but I'm very excited to get to Oathbringer. I've heard that this is probably the strongest book in the series, and I am still reading Words of Radiance. I'm about 70% of the way through as of the filming of this video, and I'm just so engrossed in the story that I know that I'm absolutely going to devour Oathbringer, and I just can't wait to get to it. The next book I'm going to be picking up is The Death of Mrs Westaway by Ruth Ware. This is an adult thriller, and I've had a lot of you recommend this to me, so I'm very excited to get to this. This was a book that I picked up at a used bookstore recently for a couple dollars. I'll go ahead and link that haul up in the cards if you're interested in seeing all the books that I got. It was a lot. But in this book, we follow a woman named Harriet, and one day she receives a mysterious letter bequeathing her grandparents' estate to her, which is unusual because her grandparents have been dead for about 2 decades. So Harriet, out of curiosity, travels to the estate to claim her inheritance and meets a family that is there to pay their respects to the grandparents that have been dead for 20 years. And our main character just learns that this whole situation is odd, there's something wrong, and there's more going on with the situation than she initially thought. So I read The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware a couple months ago and really loved it, and I'm very eager to pick up more of her work, so I thought that now would be the perfect time to delve into another spooky thriller. The next book I'm going to be reading is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. No, I have never read this, even though it's been sitting on my shelf for a couple years, but I am familiar with the story because I have seen the black and white version of the movie as well as the newer version, and I know that it's about a group of people that go to Hill House. There's a doctor, his assistant, there's a woman with a dark past, and then there's a guy named Luke who I think might be like a realtor or something, and they end up going to Hill House and learned that there's just some strange things going on. Strange things start happening to them. They start seeing strange things because the house is trying to claim one of them for its own. So because I've seen the movie, I do kind of know the outcome of this book, but I really want to read more Shirley Jackson. I have read several of her short stories. Obviously, The Lottery is probably the most famous, and I read that in high school, and to this day, that story still haunts me because I think it's probably one of the most disturbing, haunting short stories that I've ever read. So the fact that I've never read a longer piece of work by Shirley Jackson is just kind of shocking. So I'm really excited to finally read The Haunting of Hill House. The next book I'm going to pick up is Priest of Bones by Peter McLean. This is an adult grimdark fantasy, and believe it or not, I have not heard very much about this book. I picked it up, I think, maybe a year ago on Book Outlet because I saw it and I'd seen it on Goodreads and it seemed interesting, and for an adult fantasy, it's actually not very long, and I just figured that October would be a good time to kind of delve into some more grimdark because I read the first Law trilogy a couple months ago and really liked it, so I want to experience more from the genre. So if any of you guys have read this book, let me know, just because I haven't heard very many people talk about it. But this book follows a man named Thomas, and Thomas has been away at war for several years, and when he returns back to his country, he learns that the kind of crime syndicate that he has set up has been taken down, and all of these people have overrun what he had built up, and he ends up having to kind of take the law into his own hands and gather back what was stolen from him. And I've heard that it is very much like the first Law because it employs a group of just very morally gray characters, ones that you can't really trust and that you don't know if they're good or bad. So I'm interested to see if Priest of Bones is a book that I will like, and if I want to continue with the series, and if Peter McLean is an author that I mesh with. The next book on my October TBR is There Will Come a Darkness by Katy Rose Pool. This is a YA fantasy. But I also found this book at the used bookstore where I found The Death of Mrs Westaway, and this is a book that has been on my radar, TBR, for the longest time. So when I saw it at that used bookstore, I grabbed it because it's a book that has been compared to Six of Crows, and I really enjoy Six of Crows. But in this book, we follow an empire that used to be governed by these prophets, and they would put out all of these prophecies, but one day the prophets disappeared along with their prophecies, except for one that said that one day one prophet will return to unite the empire. And fast forward several centuries later, and we follow a group of ragtag characters as they try to decipher this prophecy and see if they can help unite their empire, which has been ravaged in war. So, like I said, this is a book that I'm super excited to get to and glad that I finally have my own copy. And the last book I'm going to be reading is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I don't have my copy yet because it comes out, I think, on October 2nd, but I have pre-ordered it, so it should come on October 2nd. And this was one of my most anticipated books of the year, but it follows a girl named Addie LaRue, and she ended up making a deal with the devil that she would be immortal. But the devil ends up granting her wish under one condition. No one will ever remember who she is. She will basically be erased from everybody's memory, history, etc. And one day in modern times, Addie goes into a bookstore and ends up meeting a guy who knows who she is. So I just heard that Addie LaRue is just filled with darkness and mystery and a whole relationship with a demon-like being, which just sounds like a perfect book to read in the October season. All right, you guys, so that is it for my October TBR. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books or are planning on reading any of these books and what you thought about them. Also, let me know what you are reading, especially if it's like creepy autumn reads. And I will see you guys soon in another video. Goodbye.